When have you seen the real world hit a spoiled brat? Spending $50 on food a day is not normal. College girl got cut off from her parents, drinking and not going to class, and had to get a job. She put on Facebook about how she's gonna go hungry and needs money. People offered her food and to make her dinner. She said that's okay, I just need about $40 to get through the day, I don't like to grocery shop. Edit. If you're wondering how she went through that much a day, she always ate out at a restaurant and had Starbucks twice a day. Add in snacks and alcohol, and there's $40 in one day. When the high school principal's daughter, who previously got away with all kinds of garbage behavior, vandalism, dinking, major bullying, got caught vandalizing a lecture hall in uni, she was unceremoniously dumped and banned. Parents whined for months on FB about their poor baby's unfair treatment and the fact that her applications to other unis were being denied. These parents are exactly why children turn into even dirtier adults. My ex was a prime example. He was always getting in trouble, in and out of juvie/jail, don't judge me. I was 16 and thought dating an older guy that was rough around the edges was a good idea. Obviously, I was very wrong. Every time this guy would do something terrible, his family and parents would blame it on other people or his friends, or he was having a bad day or has such manhood person. He didn't mean it. Have you ever seen on those murder shows where the victim's family and the defendant's family are at odds and the defendant's family is saying that the victim's family is ruining their child's life because they were wrongly accused? That's exactly the same thing. It doesn't matter what they're accused of or what the evidence says. They're crazy. Dysfunctional family will always stand by their side and reward their terrible behavior. Sorry about the length. I was a school bus driver in the 70s. During height of court-ordered busing, so I ferried poor kids to the rich side of town, then rich kids the other way. Lots of entitled brats, but one stands out. Super entitled kid, constantly defying rules. Eventually I caught him, with too many witnesses, attempting to set a bus seat on fire with his lighter. School officials were called. Hearing with officials and rich dad, and he's banned from all buses rest of semester. Dad offers to pay for the damage and quietly accepts the punishment. Then comes the surprise. Next morning when I arrive at 6 AM to clean my bus, regular task every morning, rich kid and dad are standing there. Dad introduces me to my new personal bus cleaner for the rest of the year. He brings kid every morning and forces him to wash and clean the floors on my bus before taking him on to his school. By end of year, entitled kid is actually working hard and being friendly. We are getting along pretty well, and I help him out sometimes so he can get onto school. Kid turns out okay when all is over. Good move by his dad. In high school, one guy was a real jerk to everyone. He had no sense of anyone but himself and everyone kissed his butt because he was not only valedictorian of his class, but also star football, basketball, tennis, and track star. He was top dog for all the extracurriculars as well. He made my best friend cry multiple times just being an ass toward her, and she had the unfortunate luck of being in his grade. He was also known as a player, just dating whoever he felt was hot enough for him, but would also put out for him. He honestly thought that nothing bad could ever happen to him because he was just that special. He graduated high school and went to his school of choice and immediately came out as gay on social media. Not too long after that, he got his first boyfriend. Before the semester was even finished, his boyfriend cheated on him, and he flunked out of his college and ended up having to go to another school. Last time I saw him, he was super polite and seemed to be rather humbled by his experience outside of our tiny town. Edit. Forgot to add that his family had money too. They weren't insanely rich, but he always wore Abercrombie and Hollister clothes and he bragged about how he refused to wear anything else. He also made fun of a lot of people who didn't have a lot of money, myself included. I don't know if that ever changed though. When my brother was in school, he was horrifically bullied for being autistic, and his bully was the most entitled little shit I've ever had the displeasure of meeting. His father paid for boxing practice, karate lessons, and other martial arts. This made him think that he was the best at anything physical. My brother isn't overly fond of sports and prefers to read in the library. As the typical nerdy kid, he's a prime target for bullies. One day when the bully had cornered my brother up against a wall, my brother finally decided that he wasn't just going to take it anymore. but he strongly dislikes violence and thus would not be fighting back. Instead, when the bully tried to punch him, my brother ducked. 3 broken fingers and a trip to the hospital later, the bully's father finds out what had been happening. All his extra classes / training were cancelled. He had all of his electronics and games sold, and if he wanted to have a car, he would have to work for every penny himself. This story makes me so happy for some reason. Your brother's an absolute legend. TL. Doctor, Professor fails spoilt son. Back in engineering school, one of my classmates was the son of one of our professors. Now, this professor was a really nice dude. He paid attention to his students, his classes were fun, and he rarely failed anyone. His son, on the other hand, was a total ashat, rude and nasty, and would always brag about how his dad was a highly senior professor with tenure. You know who my dad is, right? Was literally his catchphrase. He wasn't even a good student. We rank GPAs out of 10, and he was a 4. This professor actually taught a very specialized course, so we only had about 2 courses from him in our entire time at the school. This course in our 5th semester was a bit complicated. If you didn't do regular study, it was easy to fail, but if you practiced the stuff, passing it was a breeze. So finals come around, and Ashat is out there bragging that he didn't need to study because his dad will pass him anyway. He took this confidence all the way to the exam hall, and then the results were out. He had scored 7 out of 100. We know because the professor called us all to the classroom and displayed his answer sheet on the projector. According to him, he was the 3rd student who had failed in his 20-year teaching career, and he couldn't be more disappointed that it was his son. The amount of verbal ass whooping Ashat received was enough to have him quivering like a wet cat in front of everyone. The next time he pulled the "Do you know my dad?" card, the standard answer he received was, "The one who failed you?" He stopped pretty soon after that. He retook the exam the following year, failed again and had to drop out. Wherever he is today, I hope he learned his lesson. Simple and pure example for my part. There was only one coffee shop on my campus, operating out of the library building, and it was always crowded. You pretty quickly learned that if you wanted coffee before class, you got there 20 minutes early, grabbed a newspaper, I'm old, sue me, and took your time. It was always funny watching incoming freshmen crowd the line 5 minutes before their 8 AM and slowly filter out in despair as they realized there was absolutely no way they were reaching that sweet Sumatra Nirvana in time. Cue this little freshman girl, dressed in the classic campus shirt, jean shorts, blonde ponytail coming out the ball cap starter pack, walking up, assessing the line stretching out the door, and boldly deciding to just sorta skip it. Now the baristas were usually pretty cool with people skipping for simple things, dropping down a quarter for some scantrons or a buck for a cookie, anything that didn't require interaction. Not this girl. She caught the barista's attention while the previous customer was still paying and went, "Hi, yay, can I get a lat please? Like really quickly?" The line starts back there, replied the now slightly confused girl behind the counter. "But I have class," whined the freshman. There was an awkward pause before the barista responded, "You are on a college campus. Are you freaking serious? Why do you think all these people are here?" Back of the line. "Oh" was the only thing the freshman girl thought to say. As she turned to look at a line full of people staring daggers back at her, she looked not upset or embarrassed, but sort of enraptured by this newfound understanding she's just been imparted. It's like for first time in her entire life she realized that other people were in her way for reasons. It was actually kind of beautiful to watch, like a baby learning to walk for the first time. Better late than never. I will admit that I was a bit spoiled growing up, though I didn't think I was a brat. My mom had a maid that came in several times a week. When I went to college, several things were very different for me. I knew to clean up after myself, but cleaning a bathroom was completely new. The biggest shock was laundry. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing or how. I knew I was supposed to use detergent and softener, but I thought any soap would do and didn't know what softener was. I had no idea how or when to add them either. Reality hit when a campus security guard came in, and I asked how much of the dish soap I was supposed to use, and the man started laughing. He did help me get the right soap after, and explained how to operate a washer and dryer. If it makes you feel better, laundry is one of the most common first hurdles for 18-year-olds first out on their own, regardless of upbringing. In army basic training, those of us who were a couple years older spent that first Sunday laundry day teaching probably around half the company how to use the machines. When I joined the army, guy who had the infantry tattooed on him didn't even last 2 weeks in basic training. He cried and yelled I shouldn't have to get yelled at to do something. When I was in 8th there was one kid who had "do you know who my dad is?" syndrome just because his dad was a drill sergeant at some other post. He used to act like a fucking tick to people at every opportunity and several of us almost fought him, either sticking up for ourselves or other platoon members. We made it to graduation without killing him. His dad showed up, heard what a frick he was being. Our drill sergeants called us at ease while still in formation after the ceremony. His dad walks up to the formation, calls him up front, and makes him do push-ups in his class A's while saying "I'm sorry" over and over. It remains to this day the most glorious thing I have ever seen. When my son joined the Marines, he didn't let anyone know his father was a LT colonel. Not only that, but a LT col in the Air Force, the lowest of the low according to the Marines. Haha. When I was in high school there was this horribly bratty rich kid who loved to pick on others, push people around, and play the "do you know who my dad is?" card a lot. Let's call him Todd. I hated this kid all through school. Final year of high school, I'd had a bad day one day, and it obviously showed. Todd sees me walking G in the hall, and makes some snide remark about my shirt. I promptly tell him to shove it, as I'm not in the mood. He walks over to me, while I'm at my locker and slams my locker door, and shoves me. I recall that he said something else, but I honestly don't remember what it was. I just remember that I saw red, and drove my fist into his nose like a truck. I stomped away all teenage and angsty. Got called to the office the next day. Todd is sitting there with his father and the principal. I knew I was The principal shows us all the security camera footage of what went down. I'm assuming an expulsion is coming my way when Todd's father puts his hand on my shoulder and smiles. He tells Todd to say thank you, and we both look at him dumbfounded. Why would I thank him? He broke my nose, says Todd. His father responds with, "Because if I had been there and seen you act like that, I'd have killed you." He stood up and left and I was excused to return to class. Todd never bothered me again. In the 6th grade, my teacher was this tough older Scottish woman with a very thick accent who probably led battalions in World War II. She terrified me, and I adored her. One of my classmates was this snotty brat who constantly bragged that she never had to do chores or homework, and always got her parents to do her work for her. One day, we had a book report due. The book report was supposed to be 2 pages, and for some reason this girl wasn't able to get her parents to do her work for her on this one occasion. She came in and turned in a book report only 1 sentence long. Our teacher looked like she was about to rip this girl in half. She held up the book report and said loud enough for the entire class to hear, "Are you an idiot?" Oh my god. I love it. A kid in college was a roommate of a friend of mine. He was always bratty and spoiled, but hung out with us as if he were a good friend, and we let him chill with us because sometimes he wasn't bad. Then one day we heard him arguing with his mom on the phone that he needed more money. From the ensuing argument we learned that he had, in less than 1 year, burned through 30 grand that his parents gave him for food and discretionary spending. Mind you, he was not paying for tuition or lodging or his car with this money. It was basically just food money, as all those other things were also already covered by his parents. He was calling his mother some really nasty things and hung up on her. Then his father called and they got in an argument cussing each other out. At the end of that call he threw his iPhone at the wall and shattered it. This was the original iPhone. Turns out they cut him off and basically he had to drop out of school and drive back home, out of state, because he couldn't afford to do anything anymore, and of course was too good to work a pleb's job. He added me on Facebook about a year later, and was a late blooming 9/11 truther. Obama was president by this time, and the only thing I ever said to him on FB was a simple reply correcting one fact he was wrong about in his 9/11 conspiracy theory. He then posted like 4 replies in quick succession telling me to open my eyes, and then blocked me. Open your eyes. Wake up sheeple. Subscribe and leave a like. Please.